Well, hey there, Luskos, and welcome back to another rousing edition of the podcast.
Rousing.
Yeah.
Great.
It's fantastic. Hi, Jennie.
Hi.
Happy October. We have today on the podcast some very special guests, EJ and Janice Gaines, new friends for us. I've met them one time that I can recall.
I've spent some time with Janice.
You spent quite a bit of time. You did a whole day of recording with Janice.
Yeah, a whole day of recording with Better Together. And then I met her in a car ride to a friend's house. It was like an hour-long drive, and it was like I was like, I really like this. Yeah, this girl. She's amazing.
We've had them on our short list of guests we wanted to get on. Janice is a recording artist. Lots of different awards and accolades for her music, and we talk about that some. Her singing, her unlikely movement through a math and science career into by way of teaching in the Bronx to be a recording artist as she is, with lots and lots of different music out. And then her husband, EJ, he works as a music executive at Capitol Records and does a lot of different things there. Capitol CMG, co-executive director of Motown Gospel. He also is an attorney at law. But he also did, before that, manage his wife. And so they talk about some of the stress of being manager, husband, wife, talent, all of that.
Yeah. But I love their dynamic. I love their relationship. They're clear, like just love for each other and love for what they get to do. And I feel like we could have gone so much longer with them because there's so many questions that came to mind. We'll just have to have them back. But I love their story. I love how God has brought them through just kind of seemingly random things, but to now be doing what they're doing. And they're just really great people. So I'm really excited.
Yep. They have a podcast called Only Gaines, which we do talk about that a little bit. It's very fun to listen to. They, as you mentioned, do have a really neat dynamic together. A lot of fun, very honest, very vulnerable. I was listening to one of the episodes this week, and they were talking about one of the times they'd gotten into a fight. It was hilarious. She was mad and then was very mad that he was saying, "Why are you so mad?" And then she was like, "I'm not mad." And then she's like, "What are you doing?" And he said he pulled out his phone. He was filming her. He's like, "I'm filming you so I can show it to you later so you can see how mad you are. You'll be able to see it on the camera that you're clearly mad." She's like, "I'm not mad."
That's so
and then
funny.
when she saw him filming, you guessed it, it made her madder. And so she threw a slice of pizza at him. And that's just a level of honesty that you're going to get on their podcast, which I think is fantastic. And he was like in a white leather chair. So he was more mad that like the pizza got on the chair. It was very relatable.
So relatable.
That was a very first year of marriage moment. But anyhow, so we'll get to the conversation with EJ and Janice Gaines in a moment. We do want to say that tomorrow we are going to be, which if you're listening to this today, it's Wednesday, October 11th. We are going to be, not tomorrow, next Wednesday. We're going to be in Salt Lake City at a Fresh Life Worship and Fresh Life Church pop-up that we're doing.
Yeah.
That we'd love to invite you out if you live in or around the greater Salt Lake region, or if you want to be next week. I mean, goodness, Jennie, it's a week from now. You could get on an airplane and fly to Salt Lake City and join us from wherever you live. There's like nonstop flights to Salt Lake City from like Amsterdam.
Everywhere.
You could come anywhere. If you're in Amsterdam, if you're in, where else could they be?
London.
How about Atlanta? Hawaii. You literally could get to Salt Lake City.
Wow.
It's a hub, people. It's a regional hub for Delta Airlines. We spend a lot of time in Salt Lake City.
We do.
We chose to move to Montana from Salt Lake City. And we're going to be there at Fresh Life Church, Salt Lake City, doing a pop-up worship night open to the public.
Yeah.
A night of worship, a night of prayer, getting into the Bible study. We can't wait to be there. Our whole family's going to be there. And that is next Wednesday, October 18th, 7:00, Fresh Life Church. You can look it up at freshlife.church, and it would be so fun to have you. So you have a week. You've been warned. Calling all people.
Come
hang out with us. We'd love to meet you. It'd be a lot of fun. So
do it.
Come on out. All right. And without further ado, we hand you off to the capable hands of Levi and Jennie Lusko, interviewing EJ and Janice Gaines. Thanks for being a part of this, guys. Well, EJ and Janice Gaines, thanks for coming on Hey It's the Luskos.
Thanks for having us.
So happy to be here.
I know.
So excited for this conversation.
Not as often as we like. We get to have a fellow couple podcasting, dynamic duos on the pod
Totally.
today. Yeah.
It's like a double date that we've been wanting to have. And how can you do it? Well, you just book us on the podcast and we'll be here.
Exactly. We have been wanting to have this.
We can't get friends, so we have to just do it this way. We're like, okay, that's it. We're getting them. We're going to hang out this way. You have no choice but to hang out with us.
That's right. That's right.
We love it.
Happy to do it.
And you guys are at home in Nashville?
We are. Well, Franklin, right outside of Nashville. We're Franklinites.
Yes, a key distinction. I mean,
not because he's bougie or anything, even though he is.
I got you.
But
I chose where I chose. Okay, we chose where we chose.
It is what it is. Location. There's only 3 rules of real estate.
It was all about the slow pace of life. And when we got here 14 years ago, it was very much a slow pace of life. And Franklin was kind of like when we moved from New York City, and it was like, nothing was open after 9 p.m. And we're like, what are we doing?
And that was Target. That was Target that was open.
Yeah.
And shut down at night.
And I bet Franklin 14 years ago was because now it feels a bit bustling compared to probably what it was that long ago, right?
Oh, it was it was quaint. It was charming. Downtown Franklin. It was Dickens-ish. It was just
because they have a Dickens of a Christmas every holiday, which he loves.
They sell actual sugar plums on the street, sugar plums.
Oh my God!
I thought that was just a song.
Me too.
Yeah, well, it's the song and it's Franklin, Tennessee.
That's actually so funny because last time I was in Franklin, it was with Scott Harrison, who was from New York, obviously. And we went to the hotel lobby. He's like, let's get some food. And they're like, oh, no, there's no food. He's like, oh, yeah, but where can I go to get food? And he was like, no, sir, there's nowhere you can get food. And you just watched it not comprehend in his head. And being from a small rural area of Montana, I was like, no, do you there's just, unless you want to go to like some restaurant where you're going to, pay $2 and get food that'll probably kill you, it's not going to happen.
Right.
But he was no, ma'am, there's got to be something. He just wouldn't let go.
I need food.
Yeah, I'm from New York. You can find, I could get Thai food, Chinese food, Lebanese food.
Right.
And she was like, this is Franklin, man. I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing. And then she goes, well, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but if you go 4 blocks this way, 4 blocks that way, there's a house. If you go to the back door. And she literally told us about a speakeasy.
Oh my God.
No. We want food, not to be human trafficked,
Oh my God.
Right, there's a speakeasy down the street if you want.
Oh,
she lowered her voice to tell us about it. I was like, I don't want an illicit, omelet.
Franklin can be sketch. It could be a little sketch.
Apparently, I didn't know about this. Tell me what you know.
You have to move the bookshelf, and then
the truth comes out.
It's this actual bookshelf,
right?
Not 3 times down in a row. 1, 2, 3.
It does. It did have prohibition vibes for sure. The way she talks about it.
Word.
But 14 years.
White Castle in downtown Nashville is
the New York City to Franklin transition complete? Do you feel like this is it now, or do you guys miss the big city?
I do not. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, so this is more my pace. New York City was not easy for me. Now, I enjoy visiting, and then that's it.
That's very much it. This is the thing about New York City. If you're going to live there, you either have to be wildly wealthy or just fine to be broke. And we're neither.
That's a very great way to put it.
Honestly.
Wildly wealthy or fine to be broke.
Yeah, because it is, there are rats running down the streets, and that's just what it is. And it's not always charming, but there's grit, there's ambition, there's drive, there's the smell of urine.
Yeah, that's
in the streets.
And that's too much. That's when I knew I had lived in New York too long, when I was waiting for the subway and the smell coming in the wafted air as the train is coming into the station didn't bother me, and I could still pop a snack. It's like, no, we got to get out of here.
Yes.
She was like, I don't want to get used to
that.
No.
That's vile.
Yeah.
Did you guys meet in New York? Where did you guys meet?
No,
we
met in Massachusetts, actually.
It was a math and science summer program for gifted kids.
We were nerds.
Math camp for nerds.
How old were you?
Wow, summer math
15.
camp. You guys met at summer math camp. I did hear that. You guys have been like kind of a couple since 15, right?
In my heart. In real life.
You set me up right there, Levi.
Thank you, Levi. I appreciate it. In real life, It was a no. It was a hard no from Janice for a decade.
Oh, stop.
Despite me telling her that the Lord had said that we were going to be together, she was not accepting.
I was waiting on the Lord to tell me. I couldn't just take your word for it.
Right. Hello.
He told me to tell you.
He told me to pass it on that we were going to be together. No, it turned out, I mean, I did want to be with her forever, but we were best friends.
Yeah.
She didn't want to ruin the friendship, and really thank God that she didn't, because if we had gotten together when I wanted us to get together,
over.
I would have
OVER
ruined it all.
over.
Yeah,
we were children.
we didn't know what we were doing.
In heart and mind, we needed time.
Yes.
That's
So we ended up
amazing.
staying in touch, being best friends, kind of living life together, long distance through, going to college and then going to grad school. I went to law school. She got her MDiv from seminary, and we were just friends through that. And then one day on a serendipitous trip to New York, when she was with me, we just kind of looked at each other and was like, wait a minute. Hold on.
That's true. I was visiting another friend, a mutual friend, and she was finishing schooling in New Jersey at Rutgers. And she was like, I have a class when your flight gets in. Can Beanie, which was his nickname at the time, can Beanie pick you up from the airport? And I was like, totally, yeah. She's like, you just hang out with him that day and then we'll meet in the city and he'll hand you off to me for dinner. And so I was like, yeah, no problem. We had the best time.
Time of our lives.
Yeah. And I was like, wait a minute. I think you're supposed to marry your best friend. Then it clicked.
Oh my gosh.
Seriously.
It's a great story. Now, had you given up, EJ, or were you when you're like, this ain't going to happen?
Yes. That year, I had gone to visit my best friend from college. He was in Dallas, at Dallas Theological Seminary. And I just kind of had reconciled, like, she's never going to say yes. And on my flight back to New York, because I was in New York for law school, flying back there from Dallas, the Lord had said, hey, she's an idol for you. Because I had said to him, if you don't let me marry Janice, I'm not marrying anyone. Like, if it's not Janice, I don't want nothing.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah. And he said, well, that's an idol for you. And let's deal with that. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do? And he said, either my grace is sufficient or it's not. And I said, I know that that's what the word says, but I don't believe it. I don't believe it. For me, it really is you plus Janice and my life is complete. And he said, well, let's lay that down. And so I did. I said, God, take that from me. And he really took it. He took it completely away, where by the time she had come to visit us in New York, I was over it. And I was like, she's just a good friend. But I had literally just signed up for Match.com.
Stop.
Which I was just like, tack. It's just been a couple of months since we decided.
I moved on.
Ready.
Listen,
he's ready.
God said it's not her. I'm like, Match.com. I am black and cute and ready.
And a lawyer. And I went to math. I went to math summer camp. There's got to be someone who likes that.
Somebody wants this. And I had so many matches. You lucky you came.
You were the answer to someone's prayer.
But did y'all see how fast the boomerang went from, if it's not Janice, it's nobody, and then Match.com?
God did a complete work. He did a complete work.
Healed.
So thorough. I laid her down and I was at Match.com. And then I was able to, fortunately, by the time she came, I was still in my little 30-day cancellation window. So I got my money back.
Oh, you didn't even have to pay. Didn't even have to pay.
I got it back.
But did you remember to cancel it? Because I always forget.
I did.
Oh, good.
That's amazing.
I did.
Never forget.
I set calendar alerts.
That's the move.
Yeah.
I'm on a 7-day trial right now. You got it. That's.
I will message you in 5 days from now and say, like, cancel.
Yeah. Paramount Plus. I have left it so many times. You got to stop.
Listen, Paramount Plus will get you. That's one.
That's one.
Out of sight, out of mind on that one.
Out of sight, out of mind. Yeah.
And the only reason you have Hulu is for the bear. Is there any other reason to be on Hulu?
We were just talking about Hulu like 3 nights ago. It's like,
seriously,
why do we have this?
It's like, we have to get rid of this. We are not being good stewards.
Until the new season of The Bear drops, then we're coming back.
There's one more show and you're like, you know what? We'll keep it.
Start a new email. Get a new trial.
That's really funny.
10 emails.
I love that. And you guys have now been married 15 years?
15 years, yeah.
So 15 years married and 15 years before that of EJ stalking you subtly. And then,
Yes, that's exactly how it goes.
But what's interesting is when we were getting married, we were putting together our wedding website
Yeah.
And we were kind of
He was putting together our wedding webs. Can you tell by how he did his fingers?
I was actually so I'm the organized kind of admin guy. I had the wedding binder. I did the website.
Okay, yeah. So you had a wedding binder.
Thank you, Jen.
I had a wedding binder.
Pause. You have no idea how much happiness you just brought my wife. We've been married almost 20 years. 20 years this April. She has talked for 20 years about her wedding binder, and she moans and groans and complains that people don't use wedding binders anymore because of Pinterest.
Thank you. How do you know? First of all, don't get me started on Pinterest because I really am upset about what people think it replaces and it doesn't.
Yeah.
But how do you know what's happening, what the names of the vendors are, what the phone numbers, the call times, all that stuff if you don't have a binder?
Exactly.
And it's not enough to leave it on an email or your little notes on your phone. You need to print that out. We had a binder.
I wasn't allowed to touch it.
You could touch it. You just have to be careful.
I could only look at it in his presence. Like I couldn't take it back to my apartment or anything.
I'm going to let you two talk for a moment about your binders. Janice, we'll just be here when they're done.
That's right. That's right.
Jennie, I had laminated sheets. Everything was laminated, and then it was in chronological order based on the times that things needed to happen.
Well, that's next level.
Weekend.
That's next level.
I wanted it to be user friendly, so anybody could take the binder if I allowed it, and they could figure out what was going to happen for that wedding.
It's like a continuity of government. If something were to happen to you, the wedding could have gone on without you. Just new substitute, new groom. It would have been fine. They would have been ready to go.
You got the DJ. You know his number. You know the set list. It's already done.
Oh,
boom.
my gosh.
Wedding planned. Boom. Done. You're welcome.
That's amazing.
So everyone listening, you'll have to let us know either in the review or social media, all four of us or something, to let us know if you had a wedding binder.
Yeah,
that's right.
And then, of course, all those of you millennials who are like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
What is
and
a
Gen
binder?
Z, they're like, wait, you mean paper? There was paper involved in it? Why would you use paper?
Actual paper.
Very confused.
Yeah.
Paper?
I want to know who the binder people are and who the non-binder people are.
Yes.
That's important.
Somebody's going to tell you guys that there's a place on Pinterest to create a virtual binder where they upload all their documents and put them in order.
And
that's what they're going to tell you.
Yeah.
Trust them if you dare. But
they can take down Pinterest tomorrow.
He says, get thee behind me, internet.
Yeah. 2 words, kaput. Okay, your wedding day. Just
all you need is Dropbox to go down, and the whole thing's very fragile.
That's what I'm saying.
We're going to find out.
I'm not doing a tentative cloud thing. This is our special day.
Yeah. Okay. The moment that I realized that I was a binder person and I was entering into the unknown,
non-binary world,
the non-binder world.
Sorry, too
soon.
I was talking to this girl and she was getting married and she was so excited. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's in, how do you have your binder ready? And she looked at me with the blankest, most confused stare. And she was like, a binder? And I was like, oh, how are you? Where are you putting all your ideas and all the things? And she was like, oh, Pinterest. And I honestly feel like, because we got married in 2004, and I honestly feel like we were on the very cusp of Pinterest binder. Because she was like, oh, well, everything's just on Pinterest. And I just it was one of those moments, eye-opening moments where it was like, oh,
yeah, we were talking about America Online over here.
This is different.
You had to dial up the internet.
That's right.
And I just felt so silly.
Don't feel silly, because it will a binder, and I'll give you guys this.
Thank you.
Even though I wasn't allowed to touch the binder, that's whatever. I'll let that go at some point. But Pinterest is, I would say, for ideas. You know what I mean? But as far as a binder is concerned, a binder is a collection of your ideas and how you're then going to implement them.
Right.
So, I still think a binder is in style. Now, we're of the same generation, so I would. So there's probably somebody out there now girl, no, this is aging you. It's aging you, and it's not aging well.
To me,
but that's okay.
It's like a fine wine.
Pinterest is like the Zillow of design and decor. You go on, you can't afford that house, but you're gonna look and it's cute. But get off of there, and then you got to actually move in someplace. That's the binder.
Totally.
You gotta have a binder.
Totally.
So we can't confuse fact and fiction, fantasy and reality.
Pinterest and binder.
That's hilarious. Okay, so 15 years married.
I love it.
And you talk a lot openly about the things you've learned and the learning curve. In your most recent podcast episode, you were talking quite on, by the way, which is
Only Gaines.
Only Gaines, the name of their podcast. I love how every episode has that in it. That
that time,
blah, blah, blah.
something happened.
That was this
good.
guy. That was the binder guy, right?
It's
here.
very symmetrical and very predictable. It's lovely.
Thank you.
So
it's
the question coming.
Stories.
The question coming is, you've talked openly about the challenges of the first year, just the learning curve, how much harder it was than you thought it was going to be, went into it, et cetera, et cetera. I'm curious if you guys had to put together sort of a Mount Rushmore of your marriage lessons that are like, hey, these are the faces going on the mountain in South Dakota of the Gaines marriage. What are the top 3 or 4? We won't hold you if there's more or less. Some of the big kind of things that emerge is like, hey, these are some tectonic things that have occurred to us about marriage in the last 15 years.
I'll start if you want me to. I think one of the big ones for me was that friction and conflict are tools that God is going to use to continue to sanctify each of us. So I grew up in a household that's boisterous, right? And so we got married and I brought all of that to marriage and he was like, whoa, that's a lot that you have going on. But then I realized there is a way to have conflict. There's a way to work through friction that doesn't have to damage both of us or individually, either of us. And so I think that would be one that's huge for me, is that the Lord is going to use conflict because it's hard for 2 to become 1. Like that's not easy in any situation. And so when conflicts arise, there is a way prescribed by God to make it through so that you're better on the other side and not wounded. That's one of the huge ones.
That's huge.
That's a little jujitsu, seeing a negative as a positive, right?
That's right. Yeah, right. A little, Jedi mind trick.
Yeah, that's great.
But
I think one for me, something that I learned, and a good friend of mine told me when we had our first son, where I was just feeling, completely just not myself, not our married selves, not like, I just felt like I knew that everything had changed.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to change because I don't like change, and I didn't know how to control the change. And I was just feeling all these things and had them in my mind. And I was at coffee with a friend of mine. And he said, well, did you talk to Janice about that? And I said, no, because I just don't want her to. And he said, hey, like, she might be feeling some of the same things. Maybe you just say it, because at the very least, you can be aligned and on the same page about what you're feeling in this crazy, uncertain time.
Right.
And I remember getting home and telling her, baby wasn't sleeping through the night and he had acid reflux and it was just horrible.
So hard.
All I could think was to tell my best friend and my person, I'm scared. And I don't know when we come out of this, how this happens. And I don't even know what to do. And she said, yeah, me too. And it was like this moment of like, okay, well then let's get some pizza. Like now we got a moment. There was so much strength in realizing, hey, we're together in this. And I think so many times, especially for a guy, I want to make sure that I'm coming in with the solution, like that I'm either not causing a problem or not mentioning a problem unless I know how to fix it on the tail end. And I didn't know how to fix it. And so all I knew was tell my best friend the honest truth about what I'm feeling and see if we can't just be on the same page on that. And sometimes that is all it takes. That's all you got.
So good.
I would say a third one is...
That's really good, by the way. I just have to chime in that is so often as a man, what's hard to do, because it's so much easier to bow up and to want to be strong, quote unquote, than to be vulnerable, show your soft underside, show your neck kind of thing. Yeah. But how much that diffuses some of that conflict when you're vulnerable as opposed to,
And creates intimacy. I mean, that emotional intimacy is something that you cannot take for granted. Just knowing that we're on the same page and that, at the end of all of this chaos, this crazy season, this busy scheduling, all whatever, it's us and we're together. There's just something to that you cannot beat.
So good.
Yeah.
You're going to add one?
You know me.
You forgot it.
You forgot? Sorry, I interrupted. Now it's gone.
No, it's my brain.
Same. I'm with you. I get it.
It'll come back though.
Yeah.
How about some marriage hacks? You guys have no doubt. I mean, obviously you got
it did come back, and it's kind of a hack, and it's laughter.
Oh yeah.
I think there used to be things in the first several years of marriage where we would just get on each other's nerves. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's inevitable. You start living with somebody that you've never lived with before, and you guys are going to get on each other's nerves. And we used to do the whole nitpicking thing. And finally we decided, let's just not do that.
Yeah.
Let's just actually either celebrate or laugh about those idiosyncrasies and not let them be weighty in our marriage. And it has really been life-changing. And I noticed, like, when the pandemic happened and everybody had to quarantine, it was hilarious because we were like, everybody in the world is fighting. You know who's not going to be fighting? Me and you. Because like,
we're going to have fun in this house.
In this place.
Yeah, we're going to be laughing.
That's right. So I think laughter and just not taking ourselves so seriously would be a third one.
That's right.
That's great. So helpful.
You mentioned hacks, Levi. One of the things that we do all the time, like, what is it? It's one phrase. And it's how we kind of soften something that we're about to say going into it. And it's, hey, babe.
That's right. When you do have something to say that you want to bring up.
Yeah. When I hear, hey, babe, from the other room, I know it's about to be a line drawn and a rule established, but with love.
Can you never, ever do that again?
Ever do that? But it's always, hey, babe.
Oh, wow.
And that's how you know. So then you say, okay, but it lets you know what's about to follow is packed and intended with love, intentionally trying to come gently and with kindness, with humility, with meekness. It's not, it's not accusatory. It's not angry. It's a signal that, like, I'm going to try to soften this as much as I possibly can, but I do need you to take me seriously. Hey, babe.
Oh.
And so we always do that.
Using, I'll say it this way, the world means it differently, but using the right pronouns. And by that, I mean not like, hey, did we get the such and such? When I really mean, hey, did you get the such and such?
I hate a we. It's
like,
what do we want to do for dinner?
Ask the right question.
What do you want to do for dinner? I don't know what we want. What do you want? Say it. And it's like, I don't want
That's
the we.
so real.
Just go ahead and call it. Because what I found, and we used to talk about this, is I feel then the pressure. Right. Hey, what do we want to do for dinner? I don't know how to speak for we.
It's the royal we.
Yeah.
It's the royal we. Exactly.
Oh my God.
Kind of, cutting back on some of those things helps us to be on the same side.
Asking the real question, like, hey, did we get that? No, did you get that? I'm just trying to check in and see if you did the thing that we talked about.
Be specific. Just spit it out. Use your words. Be a big boy. Be a big girl.
That's right.
That's so funny.
That's so good. That's so helpful.
Yeah, good stuff. I could hear people even right now just like, all right, that's a game changer for us.
Yeah. Don't mind me just writing notes.
Actually, she's air writing. Why are you pretending to write right now? Don't pretend to write. It's a good thing. Write it down.
Write it, Jennie. Hey, babe, is a good one.
I want that to be in the binder.
Hey, babe.
Put it in the binder.
Hey, babe.
Hey, babe. No, it's true. The tonation, it's like when you use your spouse's middle name, It's like,
yes. Well, and so my legal name is Eric. But everyone calls me EJ. Janice doesn't call me EJ ever, unless we're around people who she knows won't know who Eric is. And so, like, if I hear Eric in a conversation, it's like, okay, we are
Eric Justin,
now.
Like Eric Justin Gaines.
Eric Justin Gaines. Did you really just? And it's like, what's that?
Hair on the back of your neck.
Yeah. And I'm like 15 again. Like, what?
Problem. This is a problem. And you guys are obviously in the thick of it with your kids, 3 and 6 at the moment. So that's still, in my opinion, qualifies as being in the absolute thick of it all.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that's fun. But here's the question: what was a bigger learning curve or adjustment? 1 to 2 marriage, or 2 to 3 kids?
Oh,
all of the above.
A good question.
That is a good question. It is all of the above.
I will say that God designed it the way he did on purpose, because if you tried to jump to those kids before marriage, that learning curve is like climbing Mount Rushmore with no safety gear, right? Because it's just like, wait, what? Wait, what?
Right.
But I don't know which one was harder. I think kids was harder. Kids were harder because, I mean, like with your spouse, you learn things like, oh my goodness, I'm selfish. I didn't know I was so selfish. Then you have kids and they just wreck your entire they just wreck your entire everything about everything. And you come to realize that, oh, you need me to do everything for you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to work through that from childhood and in order to do that healthily. And I'm going to have to work. This is a group project with the husband. And it's just like, it's all of the things combined. It's that last math question on the quiz that's a word problem where you have to apply everything. And it's like, if you miss one thing, you're like, what?
That's right. Yeah. Well, and it's hard to me, like with kids, you know, like if Janice is very forgiving and she can process a lot of emotions, even those that are connected to blows that I've inflicted. She can process those in an adult way. If I do something that hurts one of my kids, they're with that. And we often say like, oh, that's going to come up in counseling. He's going to talk about you in 20 years because...
Put a coin in the jar.
You're going to pay for that because all of these things add up to... And my dad never. And understanding in my role, you know, this kind of connection to, you know, how they view God the Father. I'm very cognizant of, you know, speaking sternly, disciplining, forgiveness, humility, getting on my knees and talking to them like, you know, very prodigal son kind of father who just dotes and just wants nothing more than you to be with me. And I'm constantly double checking myself in my mind. That's how I handled it. But is that how God would have handled it?
Well, and
is that what the Father would do?
That even makes me think like, because Levi, you're also your kid's pastor. Like, so that's got to be like a double whammy of a pressure for you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you're not just their father, but you're also their pastor. Like,
Which honestly,
we're praying for you.
Yes, good luck. But can bring the most sweet moments because if I get a compliment from one of them on a talk or something, I say it means like it weighs a gold bar compared to anybody else's. This is the greatest sermon I've ever heard because if Olivia comes by and says, "Hey, I loved when you said in your talk this or that," it's like they're not blowing smoke. They've heard everything. They're not impressed by it. So it really does. Bless you like crazy. And to watch that, to watch their journey, to see them raise their hands in worship for the first time or express an interest to get baptized, or the greatest pleasure you have is seeing them want to engage and serve, you know, seeing them in different ways in the church, you know, it's unbelievable, blows you away, but you do feel so inadequate. You also know they know the real you, they know you, you know, on the couch, they know you, the backstory for every, you know, great moment, the heart that came with it, which is, it's a beautiful, terrible responsibility.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. And they're so honest. I mean, that's the thing, you know, the other day, our eldest said to me, you know, Daddy, you just don't have to be so impatient right now. And I was like, I'm going to show you impatient. But all I could think was, right, I don't actually have to be so impatient right now.
That's a good word.
And it's the type of thing that adults wouldn't tell you. They would just get upset and they would walk away and
talk about you
behind your back. But your kids are just going to tell you. You know, they don't know to filter any of that. They haven't even learned that you might need to. So, you know, if I speak sternly to our youngest, the older comes in and says, don't speak to him that way. That was too harsh.
No, seriously.
And vice versa. If I do something, our 3-year-old is like, you don't have to be that way to him. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this?
And I, you know, I'm sitting in the background because I'm like, I grew up in Memphis with a Black mom who was like the typical Black mom. So I'm looking at them like, who are you talking to?
Why are you speaking right now?
You don't get to have an opinion. And I'm like, wait. That actually doesn't make sense. I should drop that. Yeah. They do get to have an opinion, but it's such a hard thing.
It is. It is.
We all deserve our kids for the children we probably were too, you know, and then
oh my goodness.
And then we all hopefully get to earn being grandparents and enjoy. I plan on enjoying being a grandparent so hard. Like I think about it all the time.
We dream about it all the time.
We also,
what are y'all going to do?
Oh man.
And what are your names going to be? What are your names going to be?
We've established I'm going to be G Daddy. I'm going to be G Daddy to my kids as kids. That's the plan. That's where we're going with that.
Yes. I'm more of the mindset of like waiting to see how I feel in the moment. Also what the first grandkids calls me.
But we also do feel to some degree that we've already sort of entered grandparent phase because our oldest is graduating high school this year, and then our youngest is still only in first grade. So we had kind of two waves, and so we're exhausted already. And at this last point, our fifth child, who's the youngest, we have to remind ourselves and work really hard to be stern because we're just exhausted.
And that's where we started, Levi. You understand? So we waited, and we started at exhausted.
Yeah, we started 8 years in, so we was like, what?
Maybe that's why he tells us that we're too impatient.
So
maybe
true.
they're mouthy because
really
we're exhausted.
You're old.
Yeah,
You're old.
Well, and you guys also had kids in the midst of so much going on. So I want to try and establish timeline because, of course, you're not currently doing a lot of new music stuff, or are you doing as much right now, Janice?
I am. So now I'm in the writing process and in the studio to make another album. But I did take time off, and I did slow way down before they were in school, because I felt personally that there are lots of people who can sing, but I was the only person who could be their mom. And so I thought, I don't want to miss these years where they're little and they want everything from me. Because one day, and we have two boys, so one day they'll be, whatever age, and they won't want to cuddle. And I'm going to be so sad.
Totally.
But I thought, so while they do, I wanted to be there. But yeah, so now that they're both in school, I've been writing and back in the studio and just gearing back up for a more full schedule. But even with that, as a mom, I think I was telling EJ yesterday, I said, I think if somebody wants to know what it's like to be a mother, if it's a man who wants to know, consider your career and how a man generally thinks, I'm the only one who can do those things that God has called me to do. When it comes to vocation, that's what it feels like with my kids. I'm the only one that can be their mom. In the same way, I'm the only one that can sing the songs that the Lord has given me. But gearing back up. And I know you guys get it, because it's, especially when your job is ministry, and then you have to put boundaries around boundaries and all that kind of thing.
Yes.
But yeah, timeline is definitely, we went hard for work for the first 8 years of our marriage. And then we decided, I think now is the time. And we intended to have Sweet Little Gabriel, and the Lord gave him to us. And then he also gave us Sweet Little Benjamin.
Little Benjamin. Benjamin came out. I really used to want to shave his hair into a mohawk, because his personality is just, he's just his own person, and he doesn't care. He's the little bro. He's not wild, but he's fully himself. Fully himself from jump. And so he gave us a run for our money, just in the sense of like, he was not at all compliant, just like his brother. Yeah, he didn't. It was like, oh, you want me to sit where? I'm not sitting there. I'm sitting over there. But it wasn't at the level of disrespect. It was at the level of independence and self-understanding and self-awareness. And so it was like, okay, so I feel like we had to learn to parent all over again, because they were so vastly different. That what worked for the first one did not at all work for the second one.
That's a great point. You have to retool each child and almost in some ways build a brand new factory, because they're all so different.
Yeah.
So different. Yep. And we thought we were great parents because, man, Gabriel's into this. I mean, we are rocking this thing.
Look at him learning his alphabet. Oh, wow, this is easy. All you do is put him in front of Leapfrog. And
it's like, look at that,
and
baby
you're like, dang
Einstein.
it, I wasn't a good parent. I just had a really good kid.
That's what it was. That's right. And then Benji was like, I'll learn all that. I'll just do it when I feel like doing it.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay. Well, this is new.
Well, and then how frustrating it is to feel like the leverage that worked with one child is powerless against another one. You're like, oh no, I have nothing to motivate you.
Oh yeah. No, not at all. I mean, our oldest, he loves words of affirmation. He loves to be told he's doing a good job. You tell Benji that he's doing a good job, and he says, I just don't want to talk about it. He literally said to us the other day, just can you stop celebrating me?
Oh,
he's 3.
Can you stop celebrating
You did such a good job, buddy. We're so proud of you. Can you stop celebrating me?
I just don't want to talk about it.
Doesn't want to be filmed, probably doesn't want to be put out.
No.
Does it probably will not perform in front of other people.
Won't. If you missed it and you're like, do it again. He's like,
definitely not. He'll freeze up and
there
just
shall
give you
be
the
no
death stare.
matinee.
Never. No encore. No review. We're not doing it again.
Never.
Wow.
That's Daisy. That's our daughter Daisy.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
What number is she in the lineup?
She's number 4.
3.
Excuse me.
Well, it's
Nice.
We were just talking about this the other day because we have 5.
Yes.
Our second born's in heaven. So Daisy's our third born.
Yes.
Yes.
But she's the second born. And so there was some confusion about the middle child between
Yeah.
our
you
Yes.
two
we
daughters
quantify
who
that.
are our 2 daughters who are the middle. They were like,
Yes.
but our youngest daughter, Clover, was like, well, I'm not the middle. And we're like, yeah, you are in the middle. And she's like,
Yeah.
but I'm not
Right.
exactly the middle. And it's so funny.
Classic
but-
middle child
yeah.
behavior.
right.
Right,
Don't try
exactly.
to peg me and
Right.
put
I'm
me
not the
in the
middle
middle.
child. Yeah,
I'll
but
show you
Daisy
what I'm
wouldn't.
not.
Daisy wouldn't love that we're even talking about her right now. She'd be like,
Oh,
"Come on,
my
yeah, leave it,
goodness.
leave it."
Move on.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, she's very she wrote up, it was so sweet actually. She wrote up this thing when Levi was going to take a video of
Gosh.
her reading
It
one
was
of our friends'
someone
books.
sent a book, and I was like, "Let me take a picture of you with the book to
Yeah.
send to thank them." You know,
Yes, I
Yes.
know.
she wrote a contract that she made me sign that said and stipulated with a lot of addendums. You would be very proud as a music executive. She really
I
thought
love it. I'm
she
like,
covered
and
her
what did she
bases,
do?
you know, on distribution rights,
and she
etc.
was 11.
There was international provisions, but that I
Yes.
couldn't post it, couldn't tell anybody about it. It could be sent to that one person, and that was it. Like it was like,
That was-
and
She was-
before. I mean, it's
Are you kidding
That's
me?
brilliant. She was testing your motivations. Like, are you just trying to say thank you, or is
Right.
this about to be a thing? Because I don't
Am
want
I
to be a part of a
content?
thing.
Are you making me content?
but her mind exactly. She's like, I'm not grist
Yes.
for the mill. you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But her mind, like, and she's just devious too, like, and very funny and
Yes.
Wow.
dark. Like she one time saw a homeless person whose sign said anything will help. I think she was 7 or 8,
Yeah.
and she
I'm
goes,
waiting.
"Would it help if I hit him?" He said anything will help. We're like,
She said, you have a little attorney on your hands.
I
First
think
of
you
all,
so. I think
she is
so.
about the nuances, and she's like, if you don't mean anything, don't say anything.
Yep.
Fix that sign, buddy.
right. And I would say,
Fix that
let's send her to
sign.
law school, but then she'd be like, I don't want to go to school. You know, like she's
Yeah.
like,
Right.
why do I need to know this? don't
I
like,
know.
you know,
This won't
she's-
help me. What I'm learning right now isn't going to help me in the future. Why do I need to learn it?
Yeah.
I love that.
I
She's
love
like,
that.
change your sign to any amount
Right.
will help.
Of
Not
money.
anything, bruh. Not
Any
anything.
denominations.
Oh
Any
my
denomination of
God.
currency.
Something else.
So good.
Okay, so now what about like the whole together stuff? You know, you super entwined in each other's, you know, business in the podcast, and we're asking for a friend named the Luskos. What have you learned as far as like you're not just on dates together, eating dinner together, but
Yeah.
also, you know, the musical stuff's intertwined and the business
Yeah.
side of
Yeah.
things, and some things that have helped you guys, or you've learned the hard way in having so many hours together. You know.
Mm.
Hmm.
The hours together we love.
Yeah, I was going to say we enjoy
that's
that.
like that's my best friend. Like
Yes.
that's my best friend, and we really do enjoy each other's company.
Yeah.
And we'll find something to do. We're
Yeah.
just always going to be around each other, and we like that. But working together has been a journey.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we had to set a lot of boundaries, and I
Yeah.
would say, 2 things. One, when the music is intertwined, or when it has been intertwined, because it's not technically intertwined anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He used to be my manager. That was all intertwined, and it was just like he had to tell me, like, if you turn him, like, does this dress make me look plump? Your husband has to say, what are you talking about? And the manager is like, a little bit. Go ahead and put it on.
Yeah, that's a hard place to be.
A little bit.
We're rocking a hard place.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was committed to it.
I
Amen.
was a good manager. I'll put it that way.
But I will say it's not quite intertwined in that way anymore. But I think what it has morphed into is that we kind of regularly acknowledge verbally that each of the callings on our lives are our business with the Lord.
Right.
So it's what happens with my music career is my business with the Lord, and He's walking alongside me. He's cheering me on. He's my number one cheerleader. But if I don't get to places where the Lord has called me to be, it's not having anything to do with Him, because then we kind of move into codependency, right? And same thing, I am supporting him in his career, but it has nothing to do with me apart from how are you feeling about what's going on in your career. So we talk about our feelings when it comes to the things that in the same industry where we work together, but we try not to talk about or intertwine the nuts and the bolts so
That's
that
right.
nobody feels responsible for the other one.
Yeah.
I would say
That,
Wow.
and we also just want, we desperately want to maintain our union so that if for some reason we're not working together or doing the same things,
that's right.
we still have a marriage.
Mm.
Because we
Right.
would never want to look up, and I know you all can understand and appreciate it from a ministry standpoint. You don't want to look up and God shifts one person from the space, and all of a sudden it's like, well, turns out that the entire marriage was predicated upon them doing that together.
Wow.
That's weird.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we just never wanted to find ourselves in a place like that. So as God kind of has us in ebbs and flows of seasons of success through our respective careers, it's a joy. It becomes a joy for us to fall back and support the other. We actually like that.
Yes.
We like to be able to put, like, if she's nominated for an award, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't care how many awards my artists were nominated for. I'm like, Janice.
Mm.
And the same thing, if I have a big win in
Yes.
some trade publication or something that's posted, she's more excited about that. And she
Yeah.
could be on TV that day and just completely forget to post about it. Because at the end of the day, we just are, like she said, each other's biggest cheerleaders. We just want the other to win.
Yeah, and especially, his job is to create success for people who do what I do.
Yeah.
And so I had to get to the nitty gritty and say, I have to be happy for you in that and not jealous that other people get the benefit of all of your gifts, right?
Mm.
So I
Which
had
for
to get
so
to
many years was focused entirely on you.
That's right.
exactly.
That's
And,
right.
and even if not entirely, primarily,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Because I'm the one at home with him. I'm the one who can ask him all day, and
Cut
I'm
the
the
line.
one. Right. I can skip the line, and so
Hmm.
when it became not intertwined anymore, I had to actually go to the Lord and say, now how am I going to make it so that I'm happy when the female artist that he's working with is ahead of me? I have to be happy for him because he's my best friend. And so, counseling and talking to the Lord and being honest about what I want and whose job it is to help me get there, the Lord's, is a lot of it.
And there's so much, there was so much shame and guilt attached to that for me. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, just to be able to discuss that
Mhm.
and for me to acknowledge, I have loved you since we were teenagers.
Yeah.
You're my best friend. I've always wanted you to win. I know your hopes and dreams.
That's
I want
right.
them to happen. And anytime that I succeed with another artist, there's a part of me that says, and I have to then take that to the Lord and say,
Mm.
God, I really wish that I was doing this with Janice instead.
And I say, no.
And she says, no.
do
Good for
what
you.
you do.
Happy for you, you know? And I
Wow.
think that's the dance, as hard as it may be,
Yeah.
that God calls us to return to him and to return to each other with that honesty and say, this is what I feel about what's going on, but God has called us to this place.
Mhm.
And so we find ourselves here again.
Love it. I love that you call it a dance because I think that that's really what it is. And I mean, regardless of the kind of dance that it is, there's always a giving and a taking. There's usually a moment where one is more prominent than the other, and it's serving and it's moving and it's ebbing and it's flowing. And there's such a beauty to it, but there is that tension. And what's so cool to hear from you both is that there's such a intentionality and the fact that you're saying, well, we had to have boundaries. Like even that there's so much health within the boundaries that you create and the intentionality that you have and the desire to protect your marriage relationship above other relationships. Like it's just, that's what I'm hearing is that there's just been a lot of intentionality, which is so huge. But it's easy to forget those things.
It really is. Like I had to tell myself, I remember having to tell myself, Janice, you may not text him when he was my manager. You may not text him about job tasks because when wifey pops up on his phone, he's expecting wifey, not artist.
Wow.
So it's like,
Not the talent.
not the talent.
Right.
So if you want to talk to him about business, email him.
Interesting.
Whereas other
That's so
artists
good.
might text him, but when they pop up on his phone, he's expecting them to always be that. But if wifey pops up, it's like, no, don't do him like that. Like, did you call so-and-so? And it's like all of a sudden thrown into his day. It's like
very good.
We have to take it into, into date nights. We had to kind of agree with one another. Let's establish boundaries for what we'll talk about. Because if we both come in and talk about our work days, that could implicate the other.
That's
and
right.
suddenly it's not very datey and romantic. It's very like,
you're like, oh, complaining about your manager on the date
exactly.
night.
And she's like, my manager hasn't done anything for me today. Like,
I'm actually thinking
like,
about getting rid of him. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm like, check please, tiramisu. And so we just had to have those boundaries in place where we decided, and it goes back to like, what do you want out of this?
Yeah.
You know, like we want our marriage. We want a fun date
So
night.
good.
Let's just talk about something else. Hey, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live? Pick 3 places. And we would we would just decide to talk about other stuff.
And it takes work. It takes intentionality, like you're saying. You said boundaries on boundaries, because you don't want to have a Pharisee legalistic spirit about it. There's going to be times rules are made to be broken. But I think for us, the same thing, that it's like, hey, we're not going to spend every date night complaining about the latest staffing issue or this thing with the podcast or whatever. We're going to also make sure there's a life after that. And same thing with the kids. It's like, because if there's once there's not kids in the house and there's not maybe the same staff stuff going on or whatever, what do you have to talk about? You know, what do you have to laugh about? And I think that's really what I hear you saying is, you're saying we want our marriage to have a shelf life that supersedes whatever career or familial stuff we're dealing with today.
That's so absolutely right. I was about to say, it is like the group project of rearing kids, where it's like when they leave here, we still have to be best friends. Like we still have to be married and in love with one another. And that only happens if we take the time to continue to get to know one another and enjoy each other along the way. And if we're working together, maybe we take the work questions out of getting to know or enjoying each other. But there are tons of other questions to ask.
So many things.
Yeah.
Especially after all these years. I mean, we'll ask questions we've never asked one another. And it's like, I never knew that. Or I'll tell a story from childhood or vice versa. And one of us will say, how have I never heard that story? And it's just like, there are so many things to discover about your spouse that if you find yourself stuck in the mundane, it's a symptom of something, because we are so vast as humans and so complex and nuanced. You won't run out. You really won't. And if you are running out, or you're finding that you're in a place where this is just hard, that's a symptom. That's an alarm that says, hey, go and talk to somebody. Yeah. Because and see if you can't get that piece unstuck, because that should not be happening.
Yeah, and just don't be lazy, and also be curious. You know, stay curious. Right. There's so much, and realizing the spouse that you're married to has evolved. It's not the same person. You know, they're changing, and if you keep treating them like they were at year 2 or whatever, you're missing the chance out to grow with them.
That's right. That's right.
That's so good. Spouses evolving. Yes, that happens. Yeah. Especially, you know, life brings so many things your way. We definitely are not the same people that we were at 15, obviously, but even before having kids.
That's right.
You know, you just change once you become parents and you're responsible for humans becoming citizens of the kingdom of God. Right. Like, you're just different. You evolve.
Now, Janice, did you know back in math camp that you wanted to be a singer? Did you always have musical aspirations?
I did, but they were so secret and so tucked deep down within, because my mother is a musician and my dad is a bishop in the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. So he's a pastor. He's always been a minister. She's always been the minister of music. And so I thought, I'm getting a real job. I'm not doing what y'all do. So I was really focused on academics and math and science. And it wasn't until the end of that program where I was doing my entrance exam for Oberlin College, which is where I went, because one of the alum of the program was also an alum of Oberlin and worked in the admissions office. So she was like, in case any of you apply, I'd love for you to apply. We'll just do your entrance interviews right now. Interviews, not exams. So she asked the question, if you could do anything in the world and not worry about money, what would it be? And I said, because I was doing it actually with the best friend who I was meeting, our mutual friend in New York that time. And I said, I would sing. If I didn't have to worry about money or anything, I would sing. But, you know, like Sister Act 2, singing does not pay the bills.
I know. I love that movie.
It's a great film.
Just like, it's a great movie. And so I just thought, it's a great dream, and I came from Memphis, and everybody in Memphis, Tennessee can sing. Mm-hmm. So I just didn't think it was special. Mm-hmm. And so, so I went to Oberlin, got a degree in economics. Then I went to seminary and got a Master of Divinity.
Wow.
And then I was teaching 7th grade math in the Bronx. Like, that's how far away from singing I was.
You was running. You were running.
I was running.
Yeah.
And it was
doing a really good job running, though. Gosh.
Oh, I mean,
you working hard running.
Yeah. I was running hard and far, right? And it was 2 things that changed my mind. It was this book written by actually one of the people he works with in music. Her name is Monica Coates, and she wrote a book called The Beginner's Guide to the Gospel Music Industry. And I was just supposed to be a draft reader as a friend. And her first chapter said, if you want to be in the music industry, you have to ask God first what he has for your life. And I thought, if I'm going to be a good draft reader, I should probably just do the exercise. So I how silly of me, right? Oh my goodness, to be running and then to get tripped up by that is just laughable.
Gotcha.
And right. And so then I did that, and the Lord was like, I want you to sing. And I'm like, what? Come on, Jesus, like sing. And at the same time, my students, I would get them to behave by saying, if you behave all week, on Friday, I'll sing you a song in the afternoon. And they would do it.
Wow.
And they would want to hear me sing. And like, they do not, just say anything or give any compliments that are not deserved. Trust me, because I got laughed at many a day for other things, right? But those 2 things, it was like, okay, Lord, I'll follow you in that. But I thought I was going to be a professor all the way. I was going to be a professor at somebody's university, and academia all the way.
And did you know you wanted to be an attorney for a long time? EJ?
Probably.
I did. I mean, so when
it
I
was
was
in the
kid,
binder when he was 7.
It was in the binder. I had planned that out. Told God how that should go. No, as a kid, I remember wanting to be an attorney, and I knew some entertainment lawyers when I was a kid. My mom was on different boards and worked with a couple, and my stepfather is an entertainment attorney, and so I thought I could do that. And I loved music, and I thought this is a good way to just kind of be in everything. And I remember seeing a news report when I was a kid, and I don't remember why I was watching it or what, it was just on, and they said, studies show, it was just a random statement, studies show that by the year 20 whatever, there'll be more attorneys than there are jobs for them. And now in retrospect, that's just a common occurrence. I mean, there's more everything than there are jobs for everyone, right?
Yeah.
But as a kid, hearing that, I thought, I shouldn't be an attorney then, because what if I don't get a job? So I'll go a different path. And I knew I wanted to still be in the music industry. So I decided I'll just do that. And so I went to NYU, got a music business degree, and decided I'll work in the music business. And I didn't know what form that would take. I just knew I wanted to be in it. And I ended up interning at a label, 2 labels, and then started working as an executive assistant for an artist, Donnie McClurkin. And we were friends at the time. He knows, I know, it was the worst employment experience ever in the history of all creation. Except it gave me every tool that I would need in order to succeed in this industry. And one of the things that he said to me one day when he was complaining to me about something I had messed up, I'm sure. And he
which
said,
you don't really mess
which
up.
I don't now.
And was that the coffee? Was it hot enough? What was the problem?
Let me tell you, it was something.
It was a Miranda Priestley from.
It was a very Devil Wears Prada-ish. Like, how could anyone have ever anticipated that you were going to want this? But he said to me, "Hey, this job is so easy," and I'm like, "No, it's not." Like, he was at the height of his career. He was doing so much in music, so many new things,
and he was a pastor.
And he had just planted a church in New York, and he was trying to do full-time pastoring and full-time singing globally. And I was like, this is not easy, buddy. Like, you think it's easy. And he's like, it's easy. All you have to do is think about 2 things. What does he need to do? And what will he need in order to get it done? And I thought, And for some reason, it just clicked. And I said, okay. And I started applying that to every part of my job for him. And then I took it out of that and began applying it to every part of life and serving other people. Serving other people is literally, what will they need to do? And what will they need in order to get it done?
Wow.
Very good.
And if I begin to anticipate
Levi's
those things, he was like,
come over here and help me then.
As I began to anticipate
I'm going to give an
things,
offering in a minute here.
Once I anticipated those things, I was bulletproof on that job. I knew how to serve anybody because all I had to do was think critically about, down to the minute step. He's going to get off the plane. He's going to be looking for the baggage claim sign. baggage claim sign. He's going to go down and there'll be a car. There'll be a car service with a sign, or does he have to find the car? They're going to call him. What's the driver's name? And so that became how I like synthesized the day sheet.
Wow.
And that level of detail ended up being something that I used once I got to law school. Now, technically, I applied to law school in secret. No one knew.
Working for him.
While working for him, because I hated the job so much. I was just trying to get away. And I thought, maybe this is a good time. I'll go back and do that law thing that I had thought about. And I went to Barnes & Noble. I bought an LSAT book. And I just decided I was going to study on Saturday mornings. That was the time where he was normally gigging on a Friday night and wasn't home to like need anything. So I knew I could read my LSAT book on Saturday morning.
Wow.
So I did that. I studied for the LSAT. I took the LSAT and I said, if I do okay, I'll apply. I don't remember my score to this day, but I remember doing well enough that I applied to like a handful of schools. And I said, if I get in, we'll see. I got in to a bunch of them. And then one of them, St. John's, gave me a full scholarship. And I thought, I just got a full ride to law school.
Wow.
Why would I not do that?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I thought, let's just do it and see what happens. And I did it and saw what happened. And I enjoyed it the first year. And then the first year I got this fellowship to be kind of a summer associate at a firm on Wall Street doing intellectual property law and litigation matters. And I fell in love with it. And there I was, like, I accepted a job out of law school, working on Wall Street. Mid-size firm, white corporate, like white collar corporate clients,
That's right.
and just completely M&A and trademarks and franchise law.
Wow.
And I was a Wall Street attorney. And then God disrupted that thing when I got laid off and I was unemployed. And I went from big shot Wall Street attorney to, God, what is we going to do now?
Wow.
And what he said is, you're going to listen to me and I'll show you the way that you're going to go. And that ended up leading us to Nashville. We talk a lot about it in one of our podcast episodes, or maybe a couple of them, but it was a journey. And then I didn't practice law again for years, partly because I just decided I was mad at God. And last time I practiced law, that didn't go well. So I'm not going to do it again. And then at a certain point of eating some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and being broke and saying, God provide, God provide. Either I said it or Janice definitely confirmed it. She was like, hey, you have a whole like big time degree and untapped
elephant in the room.
Yeah, like you want to go practice law so we can stop eating rice and beans. And so I did, and started practicing law again, and fell back in love with it, and it kind of spun into artist management, and then like led me on a detour course to being at a label for the past 7 years, and so I've loved it. But yeah, law was always something I wanted to do. I kind of halted it when I thought it wasn't going to work out. And then God said, no, I got you.
Wow.
What a journey.
Wow.
I think what I love the most, I love a lot of that, but my favorite thing is that you were at a job you hated and yet you thrived in it.
That's
a lot of people, if they're at a job they don't like, like, well, I'm going to phone it in. I'm going to, whatever.
Quiet
but
quit.
You found, you didn't quite quit.
Yeah.
You until something else opened up, you were going to be like, hey, I might hate this, but I'm going to do the best possible job at a job I hate. And that's very incredible.
Yeah.
I wish that I could say that it was noble. It wasn't. I
he didn't want to get yelled at.
I don't want to get yelled at. And I had a very significant fear of failure and disappointing people. And because I am a recovering people pleaser, nothing more like terrified me more than thinking that I was going to let him down and that somehow I was going to be proven to not have what it took, that the imposter in me was going to be found out. And so I just decided, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure this out. Like, I quit at one point, came back. He fired me at one point, hired me back, but I was just in it. And I decided, we're going to fix this. And by the time I left, and even to this day, he would say, you're the best assistant I ever had. And I'm like, oh, because I figured that thing out.
Yeah.
And I do think that God used that tenacity to bring himself honor and then to equip me with the things that I was going to need for the next, chapters of life. But at the time, all I knew is, and the worst thing is I'm broken. I'm in New York and I need this job. And so doggone your time, But yeah, I did. I stuck in. And now my fear always is I want to honor God.
Yeah.
I just want to honor God where I am because I've seen what it looks like, to your point, Levi, of staying in it. I can see what God can make in you in that uncomfortable time.
That's huge.
I know I've seen it firsthand, how he can cultivate you when you don't even feel like you're being cultivated.
That's very David in the cave, refusing to put his hand on Saul, right?
Yes,
That's right.
that's exactly
That's
right.
right.
That's exactly right.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now last 7 years you've been an executive at a major music label,
Yeah.
and I imagine the violence of the change in the music industry. It must feel like you've had probably 7 different careers. Just how
Yes.
volatile everything
Wow.
must be. I mean, just
Yes.
figuring it all out, right?
Yes. I mean, but that's the joy of the music industry. I mean, that's what I got into it for. I love the fast pacedness of it. There is no years long system of how this goes, and technology only accelerates it every step of the way. So even the things that I would do, or conversations I would be a part of on the label side 6 months ago, are not conversations anymore. Things that we were never even talking about 3 months ago are the topic of conversation every single day. And that's only going to continue to intensify with AI and things like that as technology continues to fuel and weigh into the music creation space. But I love it because at the core of it, I feel called to walk alongside people who know that they have been gifted with a vision.
Wow.
They just don't know how to get it done. And that will translate regardless. In fact, the changing patterns of the industry prove my calling out is that, hey, they're going to need somebody who they can trust, who's not swayed, and who's steadfast in this. And won't you walk alongside them? And so for me, it really stresses me out. It really wears me out. But I know that it's what I'm called to.
Wow.
Have they figured out IP on AI?
No. In fact, some announcements come out every couple of weeks at this point, every couple of days. You look at the trades and there's something else. The reality is, we just need to pray. Jesus is soon to come.
I mean, has someone, a major artist yet, done a song that's co-written by AI?
Yeah, so there are a couple of artists who, when AI started kind of popping up over the weekend, and this is why it's so crazy, is that literally on a Friday night, some AI stuff started popping off, and by Saturday, people were on social media, as artists saying what they want to do with that AI, and then by Monday, all the stuff had happened, and it was out on DSPs, and people were streaming it, and it was like, okay, wait, this just happened over the weekend. Whoa. We have to harness this. But what you find is that a lot of artists are trying to figure out, fortunately, how to harness the power of AI instead of rejecting it outright.
Sure.
Because the music industry rejected Napster early on and was late to streaming. The music industry rejected digital downloading early on and was still on physical CDs.
What about mp3search.ru? Yeah, right.
Exactly,
That was the one.
Exactly. And so what they find is, hey, the faster we can adopt this and understand what it is and understand that it's not going away, the more consistently we can preserve the rights of the people who should have the rights in those things and protect artists and creatives. So hopefully with AI, people will embrace it in responsible ways and we'll be able to, take care of everybody because it's going to happen. People are going to be doing it all the time.
Oh yeah, I mean, I did some research on it, man. It's a weird thing. Like I was just screwing around, but I was like, okay, I'd already written the sermon, so I'm going to go on and be like, hey, write a sermon on this, give me 4 points, because I had 4 points just to see how similar or dissimilar. So it was like, hey, write me a sermon on Hebrews 11 verse 4, use blank as an illustration, and I was going to see how it would work in, and it wasn't terrible. What she came up with, he came up, I don't know how that all works out gender-wise.
Right.
But then I said, now rewrite this sermon in the voice as though you were Levi Lusko. Just to see, and of course, it's read or listened to all my sermons, read or listened to all my books, right? So it's pretty frightening. Like it said, like instead of like, dearly beloved sermon people, I want like it was real formal at first, but then it was like, hey, like it talked more casual. And then it kind of ended with like a illustration involving something from one of my books. And it was like, oh, wow, that's actually like a little bit stunning how, different it adapted to try and pretend like it was writing as though it were me.
Golly.
Yes.
Crazy. And that's just the beginning of it. This is the beginning. As people begin to program AI even better, like, can you imagine when the nuances are going to be harder to find? Like, I can't even imagine that world. It boggles my mind.
I mean, I saw the Terminator.
That's right. That's
John
right.
Connors
right.
is coming back. It's a
That's
problem.
right.
Arnold
We're headed
Schwarzenegger
there.
is a little
We're
long on the
headed there.
tooth too. So I don't know how that's going to go down.
He can't protect us like he used to.
No.
He's
I don't know.
moving slower these days.
Oh,
I'll still trust him over me any day. I think he can still. I think he can protect me. Okay.
Now, what do you guys do? Speaking of taking care of yourselves, you guys work out, exercise. What do you guys like to do together?
Yeah, all the time.
That's funny. The way he said it, you could tell, right?
All
I
the
like to
time,
go
yeah,
on
all the-
walks. What I learned, I feel like, because we had Benji, and then 3 months after that, the world shut down in 2020.
Gosh.
And I realized how important walking was, because we were in the house and we were just laughing with another set of parents at our son's school about how we were, washing groceries. And now it just seems so silly to look back, like you get a package, spray it down, And it's like, man, I just should have started going on walks. Mental health would have been a lot easier at that point if I had just gone on walks. But I like to walk, and I like doing intense things.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't had as much time to these days, but like I was the Tybo girl
Yes.
for most of our
Tybo.
marriage.
Yeah.
Tybo,
Jennie
like,
was a
in the
Tybo girl.
in the
That beach
studio
body?
with, oh my gosh, any of those things where you go and you have to like beast it to get through it, that was me. And then my adrenal glands failed, and then it was like, no way, sis.
She was just doing tie. She didn't do the bow.
No bow.
I was doing the Tabobo.
All
And it
bow,
was
no
too
tie or
much.
something. Yeah.
But yeah, I like
Oh.
walks. We like our Peloton.
Hmm.
We like
and then
it.
I like kettlebell exercise workouts.
Yeah, you okay? She's trying to show me up. She know I
No,
don't work
I
out.
just
I don't
like-
work out anymore. I used to for real.
We
Love
did
working out.
when we were in New York. We were faithful to it.
It was such a culture. It was like in New York, you go to
True.
work and you do this, and you go to the gym, and then you get home and you're And then when we got down, that's me looking, And then before we had kids, it was like, I think I'm just going to run to the gym. Kids changed the whole schedule.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey,
Everything.
if you want to work out, you'll be up at 4:30 or 5, and
That's
you'll
right.
do it quietly
Oh,
because you don't want to wake anyone up.
Don't
and,
breathe hard.
Don't breathe hard, or else your workout is done for the day. But this is what I have learned that I really, really love for my mental health and mental wellness, and I did not see it coming. Gardening.
Gardening.
Seriously.
Oh my God! Like,
I
I'm
mean,
about to
his-
smile just talking
his
about
new name-
plant propagation.
His new name is Plant Daddy, because when I tell
Plant
you,
Daddy.
he
very good.
enjoys gardening.
I love it. I love everything about it. I love the dirt. I love getting down. I love it. I love pulling up some plant, some perennial, moving it to another spot in the garden and watching it and seeing if that's a better space for it. And
I love it.
I love doing indoor stuff and bringing stuff in. I love TikTok. Oh my gosh, I'm on Plant Talk all the time, learning how to like deal with it. Oh, it's a thing.
it's a whole thing.
And so my doctor said recently, I said, I go out there and I'll pull a muscle gardening. And he's like, so you work out a lot? And I was like, well, I garden. He said, gardening counts. He said, depending on how strenuously you do it. And I'm pretty
You enjoy
strenuous.
your yard.
I
Let's
enjoy
say
my
that.
yard.
Yeah.
That's true. I do
You've been working in your
landscaping. I
Wow.
built. I love DIY projects, so I built like some what are those called in
The
in
posts
the patio
to
lights,
string the lights.
like cement posts. I mean, like cement and with wood
Wow.
posts
Like
in there
full
and
blown.
quickcrete.
Full
Oh yeah,
blown.
full blown. Drill the hole and like do that, and then I'm looking at my hydrangeas, and we have 4 crepe myrtle trees, and I just like yesterday we were talking about something, and I saw these suckers. They're like at the bottom of a tree. If the plant kind of like grows these leaves at the bottom, it sucks energy out, so you call them suckers. But I ran out and said, "Oh my gosh!" And I don't know, we were talking about something deep and
Something
of the Lord,
serious and
I was like,
necessary.
"Be right back!" And I ran outside and just like snatched the suckers up, and I love that.
It's an
And I came back
emergency.
in. You have
Sucker
to do
emergency.
Garden-
Plant
Gardening
Daddy has an
emergency.
emergency.
Plant
And then
Daddy. Plant Daddy's
she got
on
me a
duty.
shirt that says Plant Daddy on it. So
That's right.
That's
That is-
amazing.
You're
Oh, I
speaking
love
Jennie's
that
love
so
language.
much. You're the one with the wedding binder. You're the one cultivating
Jennie,
the hydrangeas.
got you. I got you.
Mhm.
I got you. Because there's pH pills that you can put in for the hydrangeas to have them change colors,
Wow.
so that they're not
No.
like so they don't grow pink. They can grow blue if you change the soil pH. And so like
Wow.
Okay, that's next
Wow.
level.
Yeah, we'll just be over here. The activities that you guys both do, kind of like your own lanes. What about together? What do you guys like? Do you guys like cooking, traveling? What's your kind of fun date night? Couple different options.
We do enjoy. I feel like we enjoy bougie things together. I'm not gonna
we
lie.
do.
Like if it's a spa day, we're here for a
Mm.
couple
Oh, I
of
love a
massage,
spa
right?
day.
Or
Yeah.
we like traveling together.
Mhm.
What else do we like to do?
Netflix and chill, but in a holy way. I mean, or
it's
all holy.
The marriage bed is undefiled.
Oh my goodness,
Glory.
I'm so embarrassed.
But-
I don't even get embarrassed, but that's the only way to do it. That right there is the only way to do it.
The only way to get
Modest Maggie over here.
I'm
She don't even
telling you,
talk about it.
I like Benji. I just don't want to talk.
I just don't want to talk about it.
But,
Don't celebrate me.
But I mean, don't celebrate me. I mean, in
He's
the
like,
literal
Plan
sense,
Daddy is on the case.
and chilling. Be like,
I'm gonna cover myself
Plan
completely.
Daddy is the best
Lord,
sexual moniker.
I need
It really
2
is.
wings
Though.
here. And
it really is.
Plan Daddy
Oh my goodness.
comes in with his gardening gloves on.
Levi, I think that we are going to have to put a rating on this one.
Oh
Guaranteed.
my God.
We haven't had a warning in the beginning. We've had strong parental filters on our podcast so many times. Access more, slap that sucker on there. 17 and older. 17 and older.
Wow.
Parental caution, strongly recommended.
Well, what's hilarious is that seriously, I am pretty unembarrassable, and that's really the only way to do it. And you've done it. You've
like
done
if she trips, don't care.
I don't care.
Makes a fool of herself, somebody doesn't care.
No.
Don't care.
Nothing is embarrassing
You
but that.
imply, just imply it.
Innuendo.
And it's like,
just
oh,
a
yeah.
shade.
I'm out.
She can't even do it.
I'm
She's
out.
Have you guys had a Access More slap a filter on the front yet of the
we've
podcast?
had to do a couple of.
I feel like we have had a couple of.
Hey, we're going to talk about something.
Yeah.
sensitive.
What do you call it?
The disclaimer.
Yes, thank you.
yeah.
Disclaimer.
Parental
we had to do
guidance
maybe 2.
or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
But we, it's more like, hey, just this is about to be a sensitive topic, not like,
Sure.
not what you're up to right now.
Not what you're up to right now.
Not what you're up to.
Yeah, we're
now.
fixing to get an explicit rating on Spotify. Is what's
Oh
happening.
my God.
I think our longest streak was like 5 episodes in a row, where it was like.
And
Morning,
it wasn't on purpose.
morning.
It's
Yeah,
just so
it was whatever.
accidental.
It was,
It just happens.
we backed our way into it.
I love it. Though.
We backed
I
that
love
thing
it.
up. Is what happened.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, he's still there. He's still there.
still there,
Sometimes
guys.
Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens.
That we follow the conversation wherever it goes.
Wherever it may lead.
Okay, so
Authentic.
spa days,
Okay, yeah.
Spa days.
Netflix and hanging out.
We watch a lot. Yeah, we like a good show, and we like
love a
one that
good
we
show.
can like. We like to be able to binge it because we don't want to have to wait.
week to
No.
week.
No,
we
we're not
can't
doing
do
90s television over here. We want to watch the whole.
But it's
thing,
funny,
you know what
some
I'm saying?
people are still hanging in with that
They
format.
want-
Yeah.
I can't
Apple
do it.
TV is trying, and I
Yeah.
think they're trying to like lengthen our attention spans again. But I think they just need to give it up and like just give us the whole series
Yeah.
at a time.
Just give
Wait
it.
until you have the whole
Was it
thing.
Idris Elba? That new one, that way is that way. We hijack every
Hijack.
week.
Yes.
That one every week, and that was tough because Janice can't go to sleep. So like
No.
if she needs to see the resolution, it's
Yes.
almost like she needs to go.
You
into
put
like
me on
half of the
edge,
show.
And they were bringing back Jack Bauer 24 style cliffhanger
Yes.
endings every
Yes.
Every
episode.
time.
It's like
So-
you heard a shot, but who
But
got
what
shot?
was it?
Yeah.
And it's like,
And now I'm just laying
ready
in
for
bed.
bed?
Like,
And we just felt the surge of adrenaline and cortisol going into our body. It's like, oh wait, I can't go to bed now.
that's right. It's
You
like,
need to watch
love
an
you,
episode of
night.
Bluey.
Yeah. Cleanse the palate.
Look, Coco Melon.
That is so funny. Well, you guys are a blessing. We've enjoyed this conversation. We do want to point people's attention to Only Gains.
Mhm.
You guys
Thank
just hit
you.
episode 30.
yes.
Yes.
Congratulations.
That's a
Thank
big
you
deal.
so
So
much.
much.
It's so
It's
fun.
a huge deal. We're
We
excited.
have a good time.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you what, you can tell, and obviously you get a sense of it here, but you guys really do enjoy making each other laugh. And you
Mhm.
also do like,
Mhm.
you guys have an interesting ability to finish each other's sandwiches as you're talking. The way that as you talk, like you guys will finish, I don't know how much scripted that is and how much is just, you guys are simpatico, but like, I've not heard such an easy way in which even in the way, like whenever Jennie and I film videos and we're like, hey, it's Levi and Jennie Lusko, like we always find it so awkward, but the way you guys are able to go, hey, it's EJ and Janice Gaines, like it's just, you guys very naturally kind of jump in that way. It's very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
She's one
Oh,
take
thank
Jake.
you.
She keeps it
Oh.
good for us all. She
That's
makes
funny.
it look really nice.
He calls me one take Jake, but I appreciate that. We really do enjoy
We do.
spending time together. It's my buddy.
That's fun.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, well,
Only
Thank
Gains
you
is the podcast, and
Yep.
we'll look for future music projects and all the things, and really, really
Yes.
enjoy our time talking today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to swing by levilusko.com and jennielusko.com to see what's going on in our world.
And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And in the meantime, we would love to connect with you on social media.
Jennie and Levi Lusko, out.